Dance Dance Revolution. Let's DDR. Select the style. Single play. Select difficulty. Heavy mode. Select music.
DDR as I approach 40. Hey there. As the title states, I'm almost 40. It's a weird time as the thing I used to enjoy doesn't feel as fun as I'd like it to be. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy going out to my local arcade and playing arcade games. That's what I do. It's for fun. But whether I go and play Dance Dance Revolution, DDR, or what's now Dance Rush is a popular one, or walking around the arcade and playing ticket games to win prizes and use those prizes for the redemption haul. But what's weird is the thrill of going to my arcade is changing. And it's not in a good or bad way, but it just feels different. Thus, the point of making this video is to open a discussion about why and how the arcade community involving rhythm games from the 90s and 2000s up to now has changed. The premise of this is just to bring up an idea or a key idea of how, as we get older, how the thrill of the flashing lights and the strong bass of techno or EDM from these rhythm games change, not only as from the game, but from us. And I'm going to be doing this discussion or this talk not only from a video game perspective, but as a psychology perspective, looking into the ideas of what potentially could cause burnout. So if you're watching this video, just sit back and enjoy the brief discussion of the world of Dance Dance Revolution in the viewpoint of somebody who's almost 40. As a disclaimer, I'll be referring to Dance Dance Revolution as DDR. This is not only to save time, but to abbreviate what's relatively long in terms of words for conversational sake. So just to get this started, Dance Dance Revolution was introduced in 1998 in Japan. And the remainder of the world ended up receiving its variant of this game in 1999. This is when you would go to your local arcade, and this game would stick out like a sore thumb. You would see this from a mile away. You'd see the metal pads, you'd see the red railings, you'd see the flashing lights and the banging music. And you would most likely also hear the announcer,
Dance Dance Revolution. Let's DDR.
It's funny because when you look at this game back then, at the time, the graphics were absolutely stellar. Like, you're like, oh man, look at these like 3D polygon models. They look amazing. Regardless, like at your arcade, this game stood out compared to the games you would see there, which would be your normal like racing games or your arcade fighter games like Street Fighter or Third Strike, or pinball games, which were a staple for every arcade forever, or shooters like House of the Dead, Time Crisis, whatnot. This is kind of where the nostalgia originates from for most people approaching this age when they would go to the arcade. You were probably a teenager, probably going to these places by yourself. Your parents would give you money, $5 to $10, and be like, oh, hey, go have fun at the arcade. I'm going to go shopping and talk to my friends. Because doing that was common. You would hang out. This is before cell phones, so no cell phones. Internet was pretty new. I mean, some arcade cabinets had like an upload code you would need to type in after you beat the game to earn rankings on a leaderboard, which was pretty funny. For me, the local bowling alley in Kenmore, Washington was where I did a lot of my playing. Initially, it was Silver Star Arcade, which had a DDR cabinet, one racing game, like a pinball game, and House of the Dead. And you would go there to mainly bowl, but there was 2 or 3 people that would stick to DDR, and that just, again, it stood out. You couldn't miss it. For people that went out trying this game, like they would see it and they go, you know what, I'll give this a try. Be like, all right, cool. It had one of two effects. You would either start playing and play for maybe 5, maybe a song, maybe 2, if you felt adventurous, but then you would stop. You would get bored. You'd be like, this is stupid. I did my one song. Okay, I'm done. Cool, whatever. Okay, mess around. You're done. Cool. And then go do something else. And then for other people, you'd play that song and go, the stomping, the loud noises, the perfects, excellence, the full combos would resonate, and you would keep going. Every step you took was like a little serotonin boost for every perfect, or for every song you ended up getting a full combo in. You would feel rewarded for just accomplishing something you didn't think you were able to do maybe last week or the week before. And every song, like you physically and mentally saw yourself get better as you just showed up time after time again to play more. You saw as your stamina started from barely able to complete a standard song without heavily breathing into finishing max 300 at the time, which was regarded as one of the hardest songs in the game. Devoting time to get those combos, play better, pumping token after token into these cabinets just to see if you could beat your score from your previous set, wanting to come back the next day. It overall felt good. You were a teenager just playing this game, having fun, thinking this is the only thing I need to focus on right now. And it was worth it. But again, that was 20 years ago. So what happens now? Times have changed. That is a fact. Your local arcade probably went under. One of the arcades I entered my first tournament at, they don't exist. And right now, the only place where you can consistently play easily, at least here in the States, is Round One Arcade, which is an arcade originating from Japan, which in my opinion has some of the best arcade games ever. So, and it's interesting now that this kind of like, it used to be like this little underground thing where you would go to the arcade. They'd always have the same couple of like 8 regulars. You knew everybody by name. And now you go to these big, bulky places where that cabinet doesn't create that nostalgia vibe anymore. There's just so much more going on. Nowadays, when you go to the arcade to maybe play DDR or some other rhythm game, you really only see a handful of the same people. You either see the same people working on getting full combos, practicing their skills, trying to perfect the game, which is fantastic because that's what the game is about. Or you see your 13-year-old kid without parents stomping on the game, recording a video for TikTok just to get the views for the lulz. And this is where my old man side of me pops up, but this kind of bothers me. It's like, don't get me wrong. The game is meant for people to have fun and to play a game that brings them joy. And if that's how they have fun, great. More power to you. Like, that's amazing. The game's competitive nature is what's keeping it relevant. Konami has a yearly tournament that features the best players in the world. It's incredibly impressive to see this game featured in such a global scale. It's amazing compared to these smaller scenes. It keeps it fresh. I think this does deprive the game of its original point, though, of playing it to have fun. Because originally you'd go to your arcade, you would go to play this game to put on a show. You and maybe 4 other people would be the good ones, and you'd be able to play the hardest songs, attracting a crowd. And nowadays that doesn't exist. However, due to times changing, we do have games that more centralize on the ideas of creating a show. For example, games like Dance Rush or Dance Around are way more focused on freestyle and less about your perfection on precision. And these games are great for those purposes. You have your games for your elitists that want to excel and be perfect, and you have your games for your casuals. It's kind of disappointing, though, because the initial concept of what DDR represented has changed, but that might just be changing of the times. Personally, I think the world has moved on from the world of DDR. People that still play it still hold on to those memories of the nostalgia 90s or 2000s, playing Butterfly for the first time, or remembering the fun interactions they had when they had the opportunity to beat a song they couldn't beat before. But now, when going back to replay those songs, it might just be listening to the same song on repeat over and over. You end up just getting nostalgia out to describe what's happening. I also find that the nostalgia aspect of some of the songs haven't aged very well. When you go back and replay a step chart from 1995, from like 1999, and compare it to some of the things that you see now, very different. It's the charts now are not only difficult, more integrated, but the songs are also way more intense. But does that mean somebody like me is going to stop playing these games? Not really, as it's a great way of exercise, and it's my way of enjoying a trip from the past. It's nice that these cabinets do have that nostalgia factor involving with them. However, as I do get older, I'm noticing that it is much more difficult to keep up with the players that are focusing on the heavy precision, as I cannot keep up with them anymore. Bodies get older, it start to get more difficult to maintain that type of energy. So that's why I transitioned into Dance Rush, which I'll make a video on that later. However, if it brings you joy, it is worth doing. And to keep doing it, because even though you might have played D2R 500 times, you're going to still find that game at your local arcade somewhere, maybe at a random place, and they might have that one song, and you'd be like, oh man, I used to play this when I was 15, and all those the nostalgia vibes are going to come back. Will it be difficult? Probably, but will you enjoy it? Heck yeah. I still plan on playing these games now, only if gyms would get arcade cabinets for DDR. That would be a fantastic way for them to make money. Hey there, thank you for watching this video. If you like this and you want to support the content, please like and subscribe, or leave a comment below. That just helps me know that you're enjoying this, and it gives me more motivation to want to make more. And I would love to hear your input on if you are somebody who is approaching the age of 40, who still goes to arcades and still does these types of activities. I'll be real, it's kind of weird sometimes. But I appreciate you watching. Thank you, and have a great day. Bye.